So chapter one is really just an introduction to what operations management is. And we'll focus on some terminology and the elements. Supply chain management and operations management. Is there a difference between those two? I would argue that they're the same thing. Operations is either a subset of supply chain, or some people think of supply chain as a specialization. It's probably the same thing. So what is involved in operations? And remember, operations is when you're actually making things. You're providing the service or you're making the product. So it includes designing the product, purchasing materials, making things, offering a service. So a university provides a service. We don't necessarily make products that you can hold in your hands, but we provide a service. We provide an education. The moving of things around, logistics and distribution, holding things and getting those to customers. That's all. You can either say it's part of supply chain or operations. We're going to use them interchangeable. And what we'll focus on are some of the processes and how to manage some of the processes, and then the ability to throw math and analytics at these and be able to use that to to be data driven, to make decisions based on data. So you can, when you read the chapter, you could see that probably operations, people might think more manufacturing oriented, but it's the processes used to transform resources into products. That's what an operations is. It transforms resources into finished goods or products. And moving things around, either the information or the product, is the supply chain. So as a manager in operations or a manager in supply chain, you need to know good management practices to do these type of things. Here's a picture. It's from the book talking about making these jackets, and you can see from where they start from a manufacturing, and you can see that things can start at different places and eventually get assembled. But there's manufacturing that happens, there's assembly operations, there's buying things, there's storage of things, there's movement of things, ultimately to the customer. You can generally think of that there's a planning process, there's a where does it come from, a sourcing process, converting something, raw materials into a finished good, delivering it, and then always remember that when you deliver something, the customer may want to return it. So you need to be able to think about that from a standpoint. Do you have a good supply chain for returns? Because that's how you're going to have good customer service. And these are these activities. Planning, how much capacity to have, what is our strategy, sourcing, who are our suppliers going to be, how do we establish suppliers, how do we know that we have good suppliers? If we make something internally, that's the production. Delivering is the logistics, the movement of moving things around, including the dollars when you pay things. And then don't forget the returning, receiving worn out, excess, or products that the customers don't want. Operations can be thought of as making goods or providing a service. A good is something that's tangible that you hold in your hands. And if you're in this world, you're generally not interacting so much with customers. You can make something in a different part of the world that you might buy. We can inventory these. We can store it somewhere, and it's not that it's not perishable, but it maybe takes a while for it to be perishable. Services are something that are not intangible. Services are an education or a advice from a lawyer, a procedure from a doctor. Those are services. And you don't really inventory those, but you can still apply the techniques that we cover in the class can apply both to goods and services. So what can you do? You can certainly work in manufacturing. You can have a background where you're producing and making things. So you can be a plant manager, but you can also work at places that provide services like a hospital. You can manage call centers, supply chains. You can be a purchaser. You can buy things for retailers. You can be involved with quality, ensuring that what you produce uh, is high quality. You can be someone who looks at data and helps make decisions on to do things better. You can be involved with minimizing waste. A lean manufacturing or lean management is identifying wasteful practices and eliminating those. You can manage projects. A project is something that has a definite beginning and ending, and a good project manager finishes on time and finishes within budget. So we'll talk about what that means in the class, as well as giving you tools to know if you're on time or on budget. The terminology, we talk about a lot of this. Quality hit really hard in the 80s. It's not that quality is not important, but that's when it was introduced. We're in the world now where you hear analytics a lot. And how do we provide good service? Service is just as important, even if you're producing a good. What are some tools? So these are all terms that are operations related. Definitely one of the things that's important right now is establishing and having good communication, good relationships of everyone in the supply chain, and that's internal, external relationships. Being able to have visibility to information, being able to make decisions quickly based on data. The development of a supply chain design, what's your supply chain going to look like, and choosing what that network's going to look like is it important. There's things that are always changing in terms of where we're going to sell things and how are we going to get the things to the places that we want to sell. When you have a good, efficient, effective supply chain, it makes your company more competitive. Probably the only term that we're not going to spend a lot of time on financial measures, but inventory turnover is something you'll hear on a regular basis. And if you have your average inventory level in dollars as your denominator, and you know how much you sell and what the cost of the things are, inventory turnover is the cost of goods sold divided by your average inventory level. And you want that to be high. So Walmart has a higher turnover than Target. They sell their material quicker. Something doesn't sit on the floor or sit on the shelf as long at Walmart as it would at Target. So they have a higher turnover. Okay, that's an introduction to ops. Thanks.